Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at an alternate history video. This is alternate history manifestation. And, you've probably guessed by now that this is mainly taking place in America, and you've probably also seen that, this is not the current world that we know. This is actually a map of 1901. So let's go ahead and start the video. And starting off, we're going to be talking about President Teddy Roosevelt. He was just elected President of the United States, and he signs an order he calls manifestation. What this does is it investigates the assassination of President William McKinley, who was just before him, and he just got elected. Like, this is right when he gets elected. He's then going to carry out the rest of his plan. And this plane is in fact, and it's going to be looking over here at the Philippines, which they do control right now. But it's not necessarily looking like this. And this step of his plan, called Project Manifestation, is going to be to declare war, total war, on the Filipino revolutionaries. The U.S. probably already controls some of these. I don't know exactly which. I studied a lot, researched a lot. Couldn't really find anything. So, we're just going to be going with this. Looks pretty fair, but, at this point, I would say revolutionaries are probably going to take over this island, and they're going to start advancing back up to here. What's that? But they're going to keep advancing into these islands, but eventually, probably about 5 units are going to arrive onto the island, and these are going to be Marine units, so, yeah, I would pretty much just say goodbye to these islands, and they eventually make their way down to the southern island, taking most of it over. They can land on the northern island, and they have a pretty good staging point here. They're actually able to take most of it over down to this little southern part. At this point, however, around October 15th, 1901, at this point, he had just declared war on the revolutionaries, like earlier that day, and it's already looking like this, but that's how fast they got there. They were already making their way over there, but they're gonna keep fighting back because the troops have been very spread out, so they are able to take back some of these islands and make a pretty good stronghold. And on the bottom, the U.S. is gonna send 4 more units up here to deal with these guys and pretty much just wipes them out. Or wait, wrong color. It pretty much wipes the revolutionaries out. All the southern island is taken. This island over here is taken, and this island is taken. Landing on the north conquers all the island, and eventually they kind of just peace out, leading to an American victory. After this, it becomes a full part of their territory. They're gonna kind of get autonomy, but it's not really much, like kind of like semi-autonomy, but a little bit less than that. But the U.S. is gonna go ahead and send a lot of aid over to these guys just to help them out, and then he becomes very popular after this. But for the most part, we're gonna return back over to the Americas, or just America, and here he's gonna strengthen the U.S. economy. He's gonna build some pretty larger, he's gonna build some very big ports, or have them built. One down here in Corpus Christi, one in New Orleans, one in Miami and Orlando, and one in New York City, and one in Delmarva. But he'll just strengthen the U.S. economy a lot, especially on the East Coast. That's very important. And now, tensions are starting to actually rise in Europe, and we're going to need to make an alliance map to show this. And we can see this by the U.S. and Canada joining in on this alliance. And this is called the North American Pact. So if you are in North America, you can join. And yeah. So even if you have a colony in North America, so like the British could join, anybody down here could join, but the U.S. has officially joined in on this, and the Canadians as well. Down in Cuba, however, a giant uprising has just began, trying to get independence away from America. But, yeah, it doesn't go very well. The capital of Cuba, or at least the province of Cuba, or kind of like the state of Cuba, has been taken, and from there, they kind of just capitulate the whole country with some more troops that the Americans have. And right about now, the Queen Victoria has just died in the British Kingdom. And from here, the British Empire is kind of on the collapse. So what the Americans do is they buy Jamaica and the Bahamas from the British for $114 million. Now that's pretty cheap, but I mean there isn't very much territory here anyway. That'll help stabilize the British Empire for now, but they are on the collapse. And the only reason the British are able to actually successfully do this is because the British and the Americans signed two main agreements. One is that they will join the North American Pact on their side. So they officially join the North American Pact. And two, they promised to become a constitutional monarchy after the death of Queen Victoria. I don't really know exactly who would be ruling the British at this time, in this timeline. But they do go ahead and make that agreement. So, they join, and now we gotta count all of their colonies. So now, this alliance is technically on every continent. And, like I said, the only reason that the British are necessarily working with the USA is because their empire was kind of collapsing. They stabilized it with the help of the USA. And now they are a little bit more friendly with each other. And now around this time, the Roosevelt's term is pretty much almost over. So, he's going to begin his next campaign in which he is going to take over major states, such as, he's going to get major states like, he's going to get Texas, and, New York. I can't draw these, so bear with me. And like Florida and others like that. As well as like California. So yeah, he's pretty much set. And he will win the presidential election. Around this time, the switch to constitutional monarchy is made inside of Britain. And he gets re-elected by a landslide. It's very big. And he establishes another part of Project Domination. I'm on a completely different topic that, I don't know where I'm going. But yeah, if you haven't seen Wixo episode 50, I would very much recommend. It took me a lot of effort to make. But, he'll establish Project Manifestation, and he will declare war on Haiti and the Dominican Republic to better their, he wants to better their living conditions, is what he says, which is, that's fine. I mean, you can't really argue with the USA. They aren't really the strongest at this point, the USA is, but they are getting there, as, they will take over all this area. And they will actually turn it into part of the USA. And, how this works by now is there's probably some new states that are being developed. I would say Hispaniola is definitely going to become a state. Cuba is a state. The Philippines are a state. The Bahamas are probably a part of Cuba. Or, okay, I know that Jamaica, the Bahamas, and Puerto Rico are definitely going to become a part of a different state. So, Hispaniola would probably include the Bahamas, or Puerto Rico. Florida would probably get the Bahamas, and Jamaica would go over to Cuba. But that's 4 new states in addition. So now we're at 54 states of America. And if you might be wondering what's been happening during this time, well, we're going to go over it pretty quickly. First off, a conference is held right here in Paris. Somewhere around here, I think. But it is held to discuss the Middle East, because this land has not been claimed yet. So they invite all the countries here. They invite the Ottomans, the Saudis, they invite, of course, the French, and then the UK to discuss this. And starting off on this like sort of peace treaty, the conference, the Ottomans are going to grab all of this land. That was pretty much definite. No one else claimed land. No one really claimed land. It was all settled. The Saudi are going to get all this, and the British are going to get this little piece right here, and this little piece right here. But we are not done yet. So about the rest of this land, you can see kind of what's going on here. You can see that the Ottomans have now claimed Kuwait in return for the British claiming this, and the Omanis are going to go under French control. And after some more deals, it ends up looking like this, and this is actually what's really going to happen. So Kuwait goes over to the Ottomans, and this little piece of land in Yemen goes over to the Ottomans. We also see Cyprus going over the Ottomans. And the British do this. They still get some land. The British are kind of mad about this, but yeah, they didn't have, their empire is collapsing, but they just wanted some more land they were going to be able to get control of. The French get that, and the Saudi stay the same, and that is our conference. At this point, the Japanese have just won the Russo-Japanese War, which means they have the new Russian-Japanese border, which is going to stay the same, as well as control over Korea. So this time when they have all of that, they have all the islands up here too. And, yeah, it's not really good for anybody. And at this point, something very peculiar happens, and it's with the Russians, or the Tsardom. And, it turns out that, it may or may not be ending slightly shortly. And the Tsardom actually falls because of the revolts of 1905, which, like I said, already happened. We're probably in the year 1906, or, no, we're probably around the year 1908, actually. 1906, or, I'm not going to say it, but we're around that time period, and, it completely falls over to a new government that is, of course, the Soviet Union, which forms early. And, of course, Stalin gets control of it with the help of Lenin. And, yeah, so the Soviet Union has formed early. And we have the new Soviet Union and the Serbians forming an alliance. And now we see the Hungarians rise up in Austria. And this is pretty bad. Because if you will know that the Austrians and, I think it's the Habsburg monarchy at this point, has an alliance with the German Empire, which has not been shown yet. The alliance's color will be yellow. Moving back onto this war, however, we actually see the Hungarians being supported by Germany, which is very interesting. But all this area will fall over to them. But the Austrians will be fighting back, of course. I mean, they're not just going to let the Hungarians get away with this. Bohemia will break away at this point now. So now we have Bohemia and the Hungarians revolting. The Austrians are gonna push back the Hungarians just a little bit, or the Bohemians just a little bit, until eventually they start pushing back and they'll be like, hey, let's peace out, and maybe we'll give you some independence. And they are fine with that, so they're good. At this point, the Austrians probably left the alliance with the Germans. They're pretty mad at the Germans. But, now we need to see the peace treaty. And here is our peace treaty. Starting off, right down here, Italy is going to be allowed to come to the peace treaty. And they're going to get this much land. They won't get this much. That piece from Austria, however. Austria will hold on to that. The Croats get independence, and they form Croatia. Of course, Hungary disputes this. They claim the northern part of this. They claim, like, that piece as part of Greater Hungary, but they got most of Greater Hungary. Austria is still here, and they are still actually pretty big. Bohemia is here. This little piece right here, part of Transylvania, I believe. It goes over to Romania, sorry. And then there's this little piece here, which actually goes over to the Soviet Union as part of their like kind of Polish lands. So yeah, there's pretty weird there. I think I'm gonna change this border up ever so slightly to more like this. However, though, didn't really like the crookedness of that one. Now it looks better, but for now, I think we will keep this. I'm kind of debating on if we want to do this little piece right here goes over to the Soviet Union, but we will keep it for now. Finally brings us up to modern times, or at least to where we last were. And now we actually see something going on with Turkey. And this is pretty much the start of the decline of the Ottoman Empire. It's been on the decline for a while, but right about now, Greece, Bulgaria, and Montenegro all declare war on the Ottoman Empire. And we're going to start off on this area where we see the little Montenegrins, the little tiny country they have, march into Turkey, and they take about this much land. This is like at first, yeah, this is how weak the Ottomans are. They have like nothing. Thessaloniki, I think, is how you pronounce the name of that city over here in this little area. It's captured. All that is captured, and Greece even starts to take over a bit of these islands. Now, the Ottoman Empire isn't going to go down without a fight. I'm pretty sure we all know that. So they're going to invade into Bulgaria. I don't know where Sophie is. It's there, Sofia. There, or it's around here. I don't know. I don't know which side of the country it's on. I know it's toward the center of one of them. But all their coast is going to be taken. And they're actually, around this time, they're going to reroute some of their troops down toward this way. Push back about this much until some foreign aid from the Russians and from other areas around there lead to all this area being connected up. And they start attacking the troops from the back, from behind, and they're able to pretty much liberate all of this area, and to where we can see a peace treaty. And here's the peace treaty. We can see Montenegro gets all of this land over here, which is a very good size increase, actually. Might be able to start competing with Croatia, Bosnia, and Serbia. Down here, Greece gets all of this land. And the Ottoman Empire is left with this. Oh, and a few of these islands go over to Greece. This one and that one. But, yeah. So the Ottoman Empire loses out on most of its land in Europe. For the most part. Then we see some few things happening here. Like, I forgot to draw the Bulgarians getting a bit of land. But then there's a new North Macedonian state that is formed, and that is the peace treaty. But we're not done yet. We still have more to do with the Ottoman Empire. Now, yeah, they have fully collapsed to all these different groups. So, like, there is a group down here in Iraq, in the Iraqi area. There is a group down here in this whole area. And there were just different groups all over. There's a Cyprus group that kind of leaks onto the mainland. And eventually, even a European group over here is made. And so, now we're going to take a look at a peace treaty of the Ottoman Empire. And here is our peace treaty. So starting off, this is what the Ottoman Empire is reduced to, and it's now just called Turkey. So, they weren't fully reduced. They still have a lot of land compared to what they lost, because they would not have Turkey. They got a lot of land in the Middle East. They still have Thessaloniki, a lot of Europe, and some of these islands in the Aegean Sea. So that's good. But down to here, the British are getting this little piece of land. Right here. But that's not all, because they're also getting this northern piece of land up here too. So, they have all of this land, which connects up their other colonies to up here. Of course, their colonies will still be, they'll still be separate, but they're all connected now. Over here, the British also get a little piece of land right here. The French get that piece of land right there. The Arabians basically get that little piece of land. Yeah, it's not much, but you know, they have grown a lot recently, so you know they'll take it. And then the French also get this Iraqi colony. So there we go. That is the whole Ottoman Empire thing. Now we need to get to one of the last parts of the video. In this event is Norway and Sweden splitting, and the border is not exactly right, but it's not supposed to be. And now we have 2 more events in the video, and they are actually pretty big. The date is July 8th, 1907, so we are pretty far into the second term of Roosevelt, and the Qing dynasty declares war on the British Raj. And this drags the USA and Canada into the war. And we also need to cut the Qing dynasty in here with their areas. It looks like this, and at this point, we go ahead and see them make their invasion. And starting down here, we actually have the British Raj, or the British Empire, making their first invasion, actually, instead of the Chinese. And it goes about like this. Of course, the Chinese aren't going to allow this to happen. They're going to push it back, mainly down to the border, where they hold out in 2 spots. What they were mainly doing is they were mainly planning their invasion of the Philippines, and they ended up taking about this much land, as well as areas down here, like these islands. And it goes about like this at the very beginning. But soon, it'll continue, it'll change to the British Empire's favor. Just barely. They were barely able to make some more invasions after having a great logistical success over here in the north. And these 2 big encirclement of probably about 10 to 20,000 troops, which is the biggest one of this war yet. And they take out another encirclement about 5,000. It wasn't very big. It was about like this. And then we see someone new joining the war. And that is Japan. So now Japan has joined the war. Which is not going to be good for anybody. Unless you're Japan. But they joined the war. And they immediately start sending their troops in to this Chinese area right here. And, yeah. They've already almost reached Beijing. But, Beijing, of course, is going to push back. They're going to be able to take that spearhead back out. Until it goes about like this. They're starting to draw a ton of troops back off this front line now. Or, yeah, a ton of troops are going back off the front line. So it's going more like this. Up here in near Pakistan, they're going to push in more. It gets a little hard to when they get near the mountains, so it probably will be more like that. But it's still there, and the U.S. is able to take back all the Philippines and make an invasion onto Taiwan and Hainan Island, as well as this area down south. And they're just starting to take over, kind of steamrolling this area. But they are losing a ton of troops in this offensive. They probably lost total casualties, probably about 700,000 so far. Like, it's really, really bad. Like, this is a lot of troops. One of the biggest wars in history right here. And it is nicknamed Manifestations. You can probably see why, and you'll probably know why. This is because Beijing was just taken by the Chinese, and at this point, another reason this is happening is because Mongolia had rebelled away earlier. So yeah, it's really not going good. And this time, they're actually going to take Greater Mongolia with them. So it's about right here, and eventually, these two front lines link up and go into that area a little bit. But for the most part, they're going to take over most of this area. They take over like the Hong Kong area, or the Greater Hong Kong area, I guess, because it's not owned by them. But yeah, at this point, the Chinese are just kind of steamrolling through this area. And it goes to about like this. And eventually from here, China will peace out of the war. And in the peace treaty, we see three major things happening. All this land goes over to the Myanmar province of the British Empire. All this land up here goes over to the Japanese Empire. And Hainan Island and Taiwan go over to America. So, that is the war, and then the final event of the video is about to happen. I don't know how long this video will end up being, but, if you want this to continue being a series, just show your support, and, yeah, that's all you gotta do. Oh, and before we get to that, Mongolia is independent, and it has a little bit of Greater Mongolia. And right before we get to the very last event of the video, I promise this time, we see the Finnish get the Finnish were very rebellious, and eventually, they just got independence after a very long and brutal, kind of civil war with the Russians. So the Soviet Union releases them. The Kazakhs down here were also very rebellious in Central Asia, but eventually it was subsided. Now for the last event of the video. And the German alliance declares war on Bohemia in December of 1908. The problem with this is that they signed a pact with the British Empire. So now the British Empire is fully at war with the German Empire, Greater Hungary, and Bohemia. But that's not all. We also see the Serbians go ahead and actually join up with the kind of third party against the Bohemians and stuff, but they're working with the Germans, so that draws, the Russians don't get in the war yet, but they're in it. But we also see Greece joining the war on the side of the Germans. And, this is the start to World War I. This is what we have so far, but it gets way worse than this. Right after this, we also see, the North American Pact get in on the war. So, they're still red from, because it's basically their alternate history video. But, they joined the war on the side of the British. So now all of them are in it, and I have not colored in the empire of the British yet. But now we see them joining, and then we see the Turkish get in on this. This is only because they want, like, their Greece lands back. They lost Greece a while back, and then they lost even more land to Greece. But they also wanted to get back at the British, who made them lose, like, all of their land. So they get in on the war. And then, finally, the Soviet Union decides to join in on the war on the side of Germany to get back at Turkey, and because they are more closely aligned with the Germans. Some minor events that also clout the war is Austria joining the kind of like the allies of this kind of timeline. Not really. This is mostly the British allies, but France gets declared war on by the Germans. So that will start World War One, and we actually need to draw all these colonies in. The mistake was made over here. The Turkish aren't really joining any of like the armies. They're on their own side. Both sides are attacking them basically. So it's kind of like a third-party alliance. Now we can get to the colonies. And here are all the colonies. I think I got them all. But this will be the end of today's episode. If you enjoyed, please show your support, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.